So today we are at the Rosenthal castle in the city of Rožmitál. The legend says that when this castle was built, it was surrounded by wild rose bushes, and that's why it got its name in German Rosenthal, which later on transformed into Czech Rožmitál. The castle was built in the first half of the 13th century, and later on it became a home seat to a very famous house of Rosenthal, which from this house comes Queen Johanna of Rožmitál, and she later on became a wife to the Czech king Jiří of Poděbrady. Unfortunately, they did not have a chance to start a new dynasty. They were forbidden from that, so there we go. The castle was heavily rebuilt in 16th century to a more Renaissance standards. It lost most of its fortifications, walls, buildings were torn down and rebuilt. So we're gonna take a look around the castle. There are still some parts originating from before the Great Rebuild. So we will take a look at those and also on the new parts and see what we can see. The castle was founded in the middle of the 13th century by Oldřich of the House Busitz, who was the first to use the name of Rosenthal. We don't know much about how the castle looked during 14th and 15th century, since no relevant sources survived until today. Castle was probably fortified with one square tower with a drawbridge, which we are approaching right now, walls and bastions. The castle was built on top of rocky ground, which was surrounded from two sides by the marshes. These were transformed into two ponds, which fed water to the castle's moat. Moat could be crossed by the mentioned drawbridge. In the 16th century, the castle was rebuilt by nobleman Florian Grisbeck in Renaissance style. This spiral staircase runs the height of the tower. Spiral staircases are a common defensive feature of the medieval castles. They create choke points in which you can funnel the attackers. This doorway on the left used to be an entry to the castle walls, but during the rebuild the walls were torn down and only the door remains. And now they simply lead to nowhere. So we are now inside the castle tower. It's a first floor above the ground floor. I was told that unfortunately this room is the only one original from the Gothic era, so before the castle was severely rebuilt in 1555. So there are still original floor, original arch on the roof, and also back there is the original toilet, which you're gonna take a closer look now. The toilet, or prevet, is an important part of the castle. Human waste disposal was necessary to prevent sickness. The prevet itself slightly protruded from the castle wall. Prevet could be a weak point. There are some examples in history where the attackers used the castle prevet to smoke out the defenders from their positions. There are also some historical examples of unlucky kings or noblemen who were murdered with a spear through the prevet's hole. It really breaks your morning routine. The tower's walls are good 2.5 meters thick at this level, because they need to support all the weight above. So we are now at the second floor, one story above the previous one, and you can see already that the mood of the place has shifted. The archways are more open. Their windows are much larger. Like in 16th century, as mentioned, the castle was heavily overbuilt or heavily rebuilt, and it was then it was more meant to be a mansion and no more a castle as in a meaning of a true defensive structure. So a lot of the defensive capability of the object was lost, and yeah, this is what we get. And as you probably also notice, the floor is just a poured concrete, and there are lots and lots and lots of very insensible repairs from later periods or later eras. Especially communism hit heavily this object. That's why we cannot go underground into the castle cellars and dungeons, because that's been completely shredded by communism, and it's just very ugly down there. And some of the parts of the buildings here are inaccessible for the safety reasons. So we're gonna take a look around a bit more and see what else we can find. So we are now at the 3rd floor above the ground level, and you can probably see there's still a lot of work to do. Although what I really like are those what seems to be, not sure, but could be original paintings. After the 30 Years' War, the castle fell into possession of Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Prague. The castle was also a bit unlucky. It burned out totally 4 times. Last time it partially burned out in 1940, when it was accidentally set on fire by occupying German soldiers. The castle furniture was mostly stolen after the war. The remainders were moved to the other castles. Archbishop's archives ended up in the paper recycling yard after the castle was nationalized in 1948. Until 1970s, the castle was used by employees of the Czechoslovakian National Forest State Enterprise and gradually deteriorated. During the 1970s, the castle became part of the town property, and the town of Rožmitál started its reconstruction, which continued until the funding stopped in 1989 with the collapse of the communist regime after the Velvet Revolution. In 1990s, the castle was sold to the private owner, who did not have the funds to finish the reconstruction. The castle was empty and closed until 2018, when it was opened for the public for the first time. Now the castle is administered by the non-profit organization Spolek Rožmitálský zámek, and it hosts cultural events during summer season. In the accessible areas of the castle are nowadays exhibition spaces and great collection of paper models of different Czech and Slovak castles. Here is the model of probably the most famous Czech castle outside the Prague castle, the Karlštejn, which is well preserved up until today. Unlike the castle Týřov, this model right here, which is now mostly in ruins. Hopefully we will be able to visit these beautiful castles, or what's left of them, in the future. We want to thank the Spolek Rožmitálský zámek for help with this video. You can find the link to the castle's webpage in link in the video description. They helped us a lot to make this video happen, so once again, big thanks to you guys.